The point of collecting data, I mean, how up to what level of granularity that we can go in collecting information. Say, for example, an individual or a person asking about information on a single road or a single school, that may be pretty easy. But as an organization or as a bigger organization, if I'm asking information about an entire district, probably the government has information on the macro level on their website. But if I'm asking for information for each and every school or each and every hospital.
So they will ask you to go to every deputy director of education.
Yeah, so they asked me to file like hundreds and thousands of RTI applications.
No, they will just forward your application to all the deputy directors of education, and they will ask you to go and meet each one of them and to see their files and to carry.
So is there any other go other than me running around?
No, you have to run around. I mean, there is a clause in the Right to Information Act which says that if the government has to set aside extraordinary resources to compile that information will not be provided in that format.
And also,
no, I'm not worried about the format. I mean, at least I want the information in some form.
Now, for 10 rupees,
available.
10 rupees, you should not expect government should do hundreds of thousands of.
Government
should just try to imagine. The government can. The government is willing to make the files accessible to you. Now, you expect that the government should first call for all the files from all the education departments, call it to their office, and then maybe post it to you. That would affect the government.
And you don't use that resources because in that case what happens is hundreds of thousands of public money has gone waste.
I won't say waste, but I think maybe that should happen 10 years down the line. Maybe that should happen 10 years down the line, right? And that's how you would like the government to be so sensitive to a citizen demand. I would also appreciate that should happen. But right now, even they start showing the records, that would be a great step forward. They're not even doing that.
Okay, there's only 10 more minutes, so let's give opportunities for others.
Just a quick question. Since last year, how many applications have been filed under RTI and how many of them were successful? Like, do you have any numbers on these? And if you compare like similar acts in other countries in their first year of inception, is it comparable?
I can. In the last 1 year, there's no data on the Central Right to Information Act, but I can compare the Delhi Right to Information Act has been in existence since October 2001, and there are 120 government departments in Delhi, and in last 5 years, 14,000 applications have been filed in 120. So it comes to just 2 applications per department per month. And how has it been experienced? With all our deficiencies, still Right to Information in India is still working much better. I'll share the UK example with you. UK RTI Act was passed in January 2000, and they gave themselves 5 years time to put the systems in place. So it became effective on 1st January 2005. And in 2004, we are in network with various NGOs across the world. And we were getting emails from several NGOs in UK saying that many offices in UK have started just destroying the records. And they were just paper shredders were used left, right and center to destroy government records. And now also we get information from there that though their act also says that information has to be given out in 30 days and the appeal should be, it normally takes 7 to 8 months time for an ordinary application to dispose there. So there's a huge resistance from the bureaucracy in UK. And in US, I was talking to some people who have used RTI application, and they were saying that normally most of the applications go to the Supreme Court.
Ask your question.
I'm thrilled to hear that it is working. It is very motivating. But what I'm trying to figure out is how is it working? The speed or lack thereof at which the government officers work. How are they taking this additional responsibility? As you mentioned that there are people who are given these additional tasks, jobs, wherever the supervisors like they are also taking officers. How are they able to cope up with this and not say that I have so much to do already? How can I expect this person to go the next 7 days and provide all the tasks?
Yeah, basically
could you repeat the question?
Only because of the penalty clause, they give more priority to right to information than to their ordinary job. But now a need is being felt all over the place that the government should set aside huge amount of resources to create more manpower who would exclusively deal with right to information. Because as the number of applications grow, this job is going to increase, and it will be worth putting aside resources for implementation of Right to Information Act. And some people said, won't it be a waste of resources? I don't think it will be a waste of resources. One simple example I would tell you is that, as I said, the total food subsidy bill of India is 260 billion rupees, and everything is going down the drain. Now, if imagine out of this 26,000 crore rupees, the government just sets aside 100 crore rupees for the implementation of Right to Information Act, appoints new officers to implement this, I think this 26,000 crore rupees would start getting utilized much better. So it's worth putting aside huge amount of resources for bringing in transparency. But right now you're very correct. I mean, the officers have a genuine grievance, and at some places that at times they are overloaded with applications, and that creates a problem with them.
I think the closed loop mechanism is great in terms of the penalty. But let's say an ordinary guy to get a ration card, and he posts it, what is to prevent the department from saying they lost it?
He has a thappa that he submitted his application. If he goes and submits in person, and if he submits by post, he has proof of delivery by the postal department, which shows that he has submitted his application. So if they lost it, they would have to bear the penalty after 30 days.
Very quick question. Is this RTI Information Act can be used to get information from Indian consulates and embassies outside?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just curious how this thing actually got through.
It got through only because of two people, that is Aruna Roy and Sonia Gandhi. When Congress came to power, Sonia Gandhi set up this National Advisory Council. Aruna Roy was a member of National Advisory Council, and Aruna Roy has been a champion of right to information for all these years, and she was able to convince Sonia Gandhi that this was the right thing to do. We were intimately associated with at every stage, and we are witness to the fact that when this law was, we drafted this law, gave it to Sonia Gandhi, and at every stage the bureaucrats tried to mutilate this whole thing. But at every stage Sonia Gandhi intervened, and she ensured that this law was passed in this form. Now, please don't misunderstand, I'm neither in favor of Congress nor against it. But I was witness to this fact, and I have no hesitation in saying that it was she who was behind this law.
The one and the last.
So a couple of things. So I guess it seems like it seems to work very well in some set of cases, and it seems like the higher level you go, it gets stuck in like courts and stuff like that. So would you generally agree that's the case?
In court, I think we've just come across two cases which have gone to the court. One was this Narayanan. The other was this whole issue whether Right to Information Act applies to the private parties.
Right.
Now, under the Right to Information Act, it says that if any agency which is owned, controlled, or substantially financed by the government would be covered under the Right to Information Act. Now, Delhi electricity has been privatized. It is there with Tata's and Reliance, and in both these companies, the government has 49% stake. Is this a substantial financing? This no one knows. This term has not been defined. So someone asked under the Right to Information Act, and that information was not provided. Central Information Commission said that provide this information, and the electricity company has gone to the Delhi High Court and saying that we are not covered under the Right to Information Act. So these are the only two cases so far in the last so many years which have gone to the courts.
Another suggestion? It almost seems like the stories are really interesting. So maybe you could ask the newspaper to have like a column with the story of the week kind of thing to just get it popular with the public.
That's been happening. We had this tie-up with Indian Express about 2 years back, wherein almost for a month on their front page every day there used to be a Right to Information success story, and then we did a campaign with Indian Express for 3 months, wherein we used to go to different parts of Delhi and organize camps there to help people in filing. And as I said, this in the month of July, they were every day. They were NDTV. They made ads on the basis of success stories, and each ad every day was played 32 times on NDTV. on each of their channels, which is a huge thing. Hindustan Times made half-page ads on success stories, and there were almost 10 such half-page ads in that 15-day period.
So when you say a success rate, sorry.
Well, first of all, thank you for all the effort you're putting in. You could have chosen a much easier lifestyle. A question I have for you was about the RTI. You mentioned that the Information Commission sometimes try to water down the penalties or the Act itself. Can you use the Right to Information Act to get information from them of what is the process behind the scenes, how they are?
We've got information, we've got all the data from them, and on the basis of that data, we've analyzed the kind of orders that they have passed, and we've prepared a detailed report. In fact, we had a public hearing on the functioning of Central Information Commission on 24th September, wherein we invited the commission and 2 of the commissioners came, and we invited public, and the public really shouted and screamed at them. So this report is already there. If you want a copy of the report, we can email it to you, which analyzes these 1500 orders in great detail as to what percentage of dismissal, which commissioner has passed what kind of orders. It gives a very detailed story of this whole thing.
Does it also give a behind the scenes of what transpired to arrive at those orders?
Nothing transpires, they just dismiss it. I mean, for instance, recently during this convention, I am quite surprised. I was in touch with our people back home, and some people have made allegations that some of these information commissioners are actually using the hospitality of several government departments, and in turn they are passing negative orders. Now this is new to me, this I never knew. I mean, for instance, it has been said that, this is, I don't have any evidence, but I am told yesterday, one of our workers said that publicly, one person got up and said that Wajahat Habibullah stayed in a 5-star hotel in some such city which was funded by one of the government agencies. Now this is obnoxious. If they've gone down to this level, this should not be acceptable.
So what do we do about that?
We have to somehow demand their sacking. I mean, please write to President of India.
Okay, just would like to share with us, ever since the initiation of this movement, I mean, obviously it's helped a lot in terms of, transparency of information, but in real terms, how many bureaucrats have actually been punished for wrongdoings or corruption?
You see, as I said, there were 2 sets of, one was the Maharashtra Right to Information Act, one was the State Acts, and the other was the Central Act. Under the Central Act, there are 2 penalties in the center, 6 officers in Maharashtra, 3 officers in Madhya Pradesh, and 2 officers in Karnataka. But when the Maharashtra Right to Information Act was there, the State Act, under that act about 55 officers were penalized, and some penalties were actually deducted from this act. So the state acts actually proved much better than the Central Act. Under the Central Act, these information commissioners have made a complete mockery of the right to information.
But when you say penalized, like typically for for BTechs like us, a lot of our batchmates are bureaucrats, so what kind of penalties typically are you talking about? Like
250 rupees per day of delay.
Of delay?
Yeah.
Irrespective of the.
So you have to provide information in 30 days.
No, I'm not talking from that context. I'm talking about a corrupt bureaucrat, not just in terms of the right to information, but actually a deed of corruption, right? And an unethical deed. I mean, I'm sure this act would also be, kind of exposing the wrongdoings. And how many of those bureaucrats have actually been penalized by the Indian political or bureaucracy?
After the exposure and the right to information. Now that's an interesting question, because this is an important. I just want to clarify that.
Because that's the end result we are trying to achieve.
I know. Right to Information Act is a very powerful thing. But it is not the sufficient. It's a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition. There's much more that needs to be done beyond right to information. So it's for the first concrete step that has happened in Indian democracy. But there's much more that needs to be done. So under the Right to Information Act, there are 2 kinds of information that you can ask for. One is ongoing projects. If you ask for ongoing projects, the condition of those projects definitely improves, as was demonstrated by Uday's story. But if you ask for information which was past information, and you expose some wrongdoings, nothing happens to the officer. Because you make a complaint to the same judiciary, you make a complaint to the same bureaucratic machinery which doesn't respond, which is insensitive, which has become insensitive.
See, that's the saddest part of this.
No, it's not. That does not mean that we should not ask for past information, because the future definitely improves. because of that threat. I'll give you an example. For instance, in public distribution system, as I said, we exposed, you put ration card and this together, and it's a clear case of defalcation. Nothing happened to any of the officers. And now we have filed a PIL in Supreme Court, putting all these records together, and Supreme Court has set up a Justice Vadhava Commission to look into all this. But no action was taken against any. But these shops started opening, because they realize that the public has become vigilant and they are going to expose. So the threat is there कि कभी कुछ हो जाएगा, something might happen to us. Everything has started getting exposed. Similarly, in Sundarnagari, we asked for the records of the civil works which were carried out by the municipality in the last 2 years. We got copies of 182 contracts related to the construction of roads, related to construction of toilets, etc., etc. And we analyzed 68 contracts, and we found that items, these were worth 1.3 crore rupees. Items worth 70 lakh rupees were missing. 29 hand pumps were supposed to be installed, only 15 hand pumps had been installed. 29 electric motors were supposed to be there, not a single motor was there. And we made this complaint to the Chief Minister, nothing happened. We made a complaint to the Commissioner, nothing happened. We filed a PIL in Delhi High Court. For 3 years, Delhi High Court listened to the PIL. Now they have remanded this case to the district authorities. So nothing much is happening on the punishment level. But when next year we file for the same information, there were no ghost works. So the future definitely improves.
Okay, the last question.
I really like to commend you for the work you're doing. It's really, it's really exemplary. Looks like one of the biggest threat, as you said, is to make sure that the commissioners are right in this case. So do you, in order to mobilize people, one of the easiest things to do is put some information on a website. And I was trying to find on this sheet if there is any information available on a website so that you can, about this whole act and information about the act in general. So is there any information that we could get access to which you can distribute?
About the commissioners or about the act?
No, first the act. And
the act is there. There are several websites. There's one website called www.right2information.org, which gives you the act, which gives you several success stories, which actually helps you in drafting your application. Okay. And it also gives you a printout of your application. And it tells you where to apply for and how to apply. It tells you everything. And then there are many other websites. If you just give Right to Information in India, it will throw up several websites.
A couple others I just wanted to mention real quick are rta.gov.in, that is the government website.
That is the government website.
And there is also a lot of information in the Parivartan website, which points to many other sources. rta.aidindia.org serves as a good portal as well.
Okay. Thank you very much for all your questions. Although you have a lot of questions, we have very less time. Piyush will give a wrap up of.
There's just a small song on Right to Information, which is a very interesting song. 5 minutes, if you all don't mind.
Sure.
So thank you everybody. It was very great having you out here and all the wonderful questions you had. If you do want to contribute your time, AID is here. Our organization has quite a few initiatives.